Hare Krishna. I welcome everybody for ISKCON of Silicon Valley's Wednesday evening program. First, we'll do Mangalacharan prayers, and then we'll do a small bhajan, and then we can get going. So let me share my screen for Mangalacharan prayers. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मत्समो नास्ति पापात्मा नपराधी च कश्चन परिहारेऽपि लज्जा मे किं ब्रुवे पुरुषोत्तमा। युवतीनां यथा यूनि यूनां च युवतौ यथा मनोभिरमते तद्वन्मनो मे रमतां त्वयि। भूमौ
I'm done.
अवलम्बनं जाता अपराधानां त्वामेव शरणं प्रभो। गोविन्द वल्लभे राधे प्रार्थये त्वमहं सदा त्वदीयम् इति जानातु गोविन्दो मां त्वया सह। राधे वृन्दावनाधीशे करुणामृतवाहिनी कृपया निजपादाब्जा दास्यं मह्यं प्रदीयताम्। त्रिनादपि सुनीचैन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना मानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीयः सदा हरिः। कथञ्चन स्मृते यस्मिन् दुष्करं सुकरं भवेत् विस्मृते विपरीतं स्यात् श्रीचैतन्यं नमामि तम्। संसारदुःखजलधौ प्रतितस्य कामा क्रोधादिनक्रमकरे कबलीकृतस्य दुर्वासना निगडितस्य निराश्रयस्य चैतन्यचन्द्र मम देहि पदावलम्बम्। चैतन्यचन्द्र मम देहि पदावलम्बम्। हरे कृष्ण. Again, I welcome everybody to the ISV Wednesday evening program. I thank the temple leadership and my Siksha Gurus and my Guru Maharaj for giving me this opportunity to speak today. So we'll do first Jai Radha Madhava, a little small bhajan, and then we'll discuss some glories of Srila Rupa Goswami, because yesterday is the disappearance day of Srila Rupa Goswami. So we will we'll see, especially we'll focus on the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And then if we still have time, then we can also do Shat Goswami Ashtakam towards the end, based on the time. So I'll share my screen again to share the bhajan with all of you. We'll do Jai Radha Madhava. जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय महाप्रभु 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 जय महाप्रभु जय राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह जय नर हरि जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह जय नर हरि जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव Hare Krishna. I welcome everybody. So yesterday is Rupa Goswami's disappearance day. So we will remember and we'll discuss some of the pastimes of Rupa Goswami. And especially we'll focus on how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the meeting of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they're one of the 6 Goswamis that we have, and Rupa Goswami is the Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. And here we are all Rupanugas. We are called Rupanugas. So we are following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami in order to get into the pure devotional service. So whether we are in material world or in spiritual world, we serve through Rupa Goswami, and we have to beg for the mercy of Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they were coming from very exalted Brahman families from Karnataka. And there was some conflict in the brothers of the families. So they moved away from Karnataka to Bangladesh. And at that time, the king who is residing in that part of Bangladesh, Nawab Hussain Shah, is very convinced that these 2 brothers are very learned and very humble, and they have a lot of popularity due to their compassionate behavior. So they were given the posts of prime minister and home finance ministers, respectively. And then all the Hindus would actually follow the king because he has kept these 2 ministers. So that way, the king also was doing some diplomacy here so that he will win the hands of all the Hindus. And these 2 people, Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they worked so well that the king considered them as brothers and divided his wealth along with them. And they were living in magnificent palaces, and it has beautiful grounds. So their names were, when they were serving Nawab Hussain Shah, Sakar Malik, and the Birkas. But they are devotees of the Lord, and they lived in Vrindavan, although physically not in Vrindavan. So in Ramakeli, they were living in palaces, but because they were devotees, they have developed these grounds into replicas of Vrindavan. So they have Madan Mohan Temple, Radha Madan Mohan Temple, the temple from which Vajranabh, who is the great grandson of Krishna, has given this deity. And then they have built Radha Kund, Shamakund, and they have Kadamba Kanana gardens of Kadamba trees. So they could forget that they are in Ramakeli and think that they are in Vrindavan. So they were constantly meditating in the mood of Vrindavan, although they were serving as politicians under the King Nawab Hussain Shah. So similarly, even today, if we see, we have so many temples, and Prabhupada used to say that each temple is an extension of Goloka Vrindavan. And in Mumbai also, we see Govardhan Eco Village, which is having the exact replica of Vrindavan, along with the temples and the structures. So it is such a beautiful place. So these 2 people, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they have very compassionate hearts. They have great devotion and have great compassion towards all living entities. And they always saw good in people. And that is why people also like them. And they are very, very compassionate. And because of that, people saw their gentle behavior. And they were very friendly with both Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Similarly, if you see Srila Prabhupada, he also saw good in everyone. People thought he saw something good so that I can also do this. That is what they felt when they were dealing with Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada always saw the soul and the eternal nature of loving God, which is forgotten by these people. So in the general material sense, people find faults, and when they do not have the right compassionate attitude to help others or to improve others, oftentimes they bring the worst out of the situations from the people. So one needs to bring the best out of the people we deal with. For example, if we have a cockroach in the house, just to remove the cockroach, we cannot put an atom bomb or throw some thousands of snakes inside the room. So that is what naturally happens here. Like, if somebody has a problem and they go and tell somebody who is the so-called leader in the current material world, the problems are multiplied. They do not solve the problem, be it a small nation approaching a bigger nation, or be it somebody who is suffering and approaching a so-called learned person or so-called leader in the society. They cannot solve these problems. One needs to have a great deal of compassion, like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, in order to solve the problems. Otherwise, no matter what happens, the solutions, people cannot see the solutions. And the loving dealings of Sakar Malik and the Birkas are so nice. They used to work with compassion, and they always used to bring the best out of everyone. And they also knew that Lord Chaitanya is a supreme personality of Godhead. He has already descended, and they knew that. And they can clearly understand with all the references from the Shastras. Every Shastra is actually glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in order to meet, they were writing several letters to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that, we wanted to be in Vrindavan. We wanted to serve you, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but look at our precarious condition. We have to serve as politicians in this Mughal government. So naturally, when somebody writes a letter to a sannyasi, you do not get a reply usually. That's what happened to both Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami as well. They wrote several letters, but they did not get any response. But finally, at some point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did reply, and he replied in a very, very interesting way. He said that if a wife has another lover other than the husband, she would serve the husband very, very nicely. And that's it. This is just the one line he wrote back, and that is written by a sannyasi, sadhu. So, and they understood that they have to serve the king very nicely by this message. They are very intelligent people. And Krishna also gives that tadami buddhi yogam tam. So when somebody has a pure heart and their intentions are clear, Krishna at every moment dictates, at every moment provides the path of understanding for the people that who are the pure devotees. So Lord Chaitanya, once he was actually going to Vrindavan, and then he was in Kulia, there were several thousands of people who called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as arrogant. They have committed several offenses by calling him, different names. They did not understand. They misunderstood him, and out of envy, they committed several offenses. But still, no matter how bad their offenses were, no matter how much they have in their heart, all this envy, greed, lust, anger, and these are all inevitable. So all these things are largely present in the material world, especially in this Kali Yuga. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anybody who approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with humility, he excused them and he gave shelter. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave shelter to them. And also, he was giving the ultimate love of Godhead and cleansed their hearts forever, eternally. If you see Jesus Christ also, he was once asked, according to our scripture, Bible, they said that we should forgive a person who has committed offenses 7 times. And when they told this to Jesus Christ, he said, we should forgive even if they did 70 times of 7. We should still forgive them. So that is the nature of the saintly person. They will forgive no matter what the offenses is. In fact, a saintly person will never take an offense to his heart, even when the offense is being committed. So that is the nature of the saintly. So Lord Chaitanya used to, forgive them. And if you see the example of Haridas Thakur, he was born in he was born in a Muslim family, and he had a very low birth. And then he was not allowed to enter into the temple to see the deity. And he was misunderstood. Some people conspired against him. And then the king himself prosecuted. And because he was chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all the time, he said, you should stop this, otherwise we are going to prosecute you. So still Haridas Thakur was chanting, and he said that even if you cut my body into several pieces, each piece will still be chanting the glories of Krishna. So then he ordered the men to beat him up in the 22 marketplaces. So he was dragged, and then in the middle of the street, they were kicking him, they were beating him, they were spitting on him, and they were torturing him very badly. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ready to, his Sudarshan Chakra was ready. And then he wants to sever their heads and save Haridas Thakur. But he knew the intention. Haridas Thakur was praying, and he also knew the Haridas Thakur's heart. So Haridas Thakur is so compassionate for all the living entities of the world. He was praying that these people do not know what they are doing. These people do not know that what they are getting into. And then he was praying for their well-being. He was praying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to forgive them and also give them love of Godhead. So that is the nature. And then if he would have severed the heads of these people, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur would have been severely, he would have been upset, because he's a Vaishnava. He doesn't want anybody to be punished. So knowing that, the Lord himself stepped back. And this Lord Chaitanya himself, he tells to Haridas Thakur during Mahaprakash Leela, where he was showing his personal forms to each and every devotee. So at that time, he was talking to Haridas Thakur, and he said, I knew the intention, what was in your mind, and that is why I left those people. But, I took all those beatings. And he removed his shawl and showed his back, and we see all the whip marks and everything there. So that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed. And then, so Haridas Thakur is also a great Vaishnav. And then he has so much compassion and so much forgiveness. And this is the essential aspect of Vaishnavas. So Lord Chaitanya in Kulia, he lived there for a week. And then he was delivering people who are very, very notorious, who are very, very fallen, who have committed several offenses. Anybody and anyone who comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asks for forgiveness and humbly surrenders, no matter what their previous background is, he was liberating them. He was giving them love of Godhead, and he was permanently removing their offensive attitudes as well. But this is all the detail. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Kulia. He actually wanted to go to Vrindavan, but he stopped in Kulia and he was delivering all these people. But these deliverance and everything, giving Krishna Prema is all a detail, but his main aim is to go to Vrindavan. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's the internal reason of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And then after Kulia, then he took a detour and he went to Ramakeli. So there, Ramakeli is a very special, significant place where there lived several scholars live there. And then the kingdom is headed by Nawab Hussain Shah, the Mughal emperor. So he was ruling and he was very, very cruel. Nawab Hussain Shah lived entire life in such a way that he hated anyone who is different from him. So religion is actually supposed to bring compassion and unity and peace among the people. But like that same religion is used as the most disturbing element to bring differences in the people in Kali Yuga. And that's what is happening with Nawab Hussain Shah as well. So the Mughal king of Bengal is Nawab Hussain, and he hates Hindus, and he ripped fears in their lives. He destroyed temples. He destroyed the deities, and he broke the deities, and sometimes he crushed the deities into powder, just so that he wanted to show to the public anybody practicing any other religion except his own, he wants to show his power. He wants to show his military. He wants to enforce. So that is the nature of this person. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there to Ramakeli, where this Nawab Hussain Shah is ruling, and close to his palace there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the streets and he saw people there. And people saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so beautiful. And he said, Hari Bol. And everyone chanted. Everyone started chanting. And then he induced everybody to chant very loudly. So hundreds and thousands and millions of people joined. And everybody was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then whoever joined the kirtan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so magnanimous that he is inducing everybody to chant. And everybody, they forgot all their problems. And both the women, the men, the children, the old people, everybody came to the streets. And they were chanting, they were dancing. And the whole city of Ramakeli is reverberating with kirtans. And they could not hear anything else but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So the police also saw this. And the police they also went to Nawab Hussain Shah, all these police employed by Nawab Hussain Shah. And they were saying that this person, we saw this person, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was dancing. He's so beautiful. His eyes looked so wonderful, like lotus petals. And then his nose is well formed. His color is like resplendent, like molten gold. His hands are so beautiful, like pillars extending below his knees. And then he is chanting. When he is chanting, torrents of rain, torrents of tears are falling from his eyes. He's beautifully dancing, and he would jump into the sky. And when he falls down, if there are rocks underneath, the rocks would break and become into powder. But his body is like butter, so soft as butter. His limbs are so beautiful. He looked so happy, and he's so magnanimous, and he's showing compassion, and he's dancing with this ecstasy. So, and then he is inducing everybody, thousands and hundreds of people and millions of people to chant, and everybody is following his instructions, and everybody is forgetting. And this is happening for days. This is happening in the nights. This is happening. They are not eating their food. They're not going to take rest in the night. They're not sleeping. They were chanting. And this beautiful Lord is inducing everybody. And he says that this is my report, Nawab Hussain Shah. So Nawab Hussain Shah looked at this person and then he called Keshava Shah. So Keshava Shah is another great devotee. He also lived in his palace. And then he said, "Who is this Swami? He seemed to come here and I'm hearing like, what is his purpose? What is his aim? What does he want? How does he look like? Why does he have so much influence over thousands of people? Why are they all listening to him?" So Keshava Khan, he knew if he told the truth, he would go and kill thousands of people. And he will also cause harm to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he doesn't want to tell the truth. So he told, this person is actually, he's a sannyasi, he's a poor beggar. He has a couple of people around him. He has no money. Even for eating, he goes door to door for begging. He is just a poor beggar. Should not take anything seriously. He will just come and he'll go. Don't worry about him. Now, Nawab Hussain Shah looked at him and he said very angrily, he told, how dare you call him a beggar? He is the Supreme Lord, whom the Vedas call him the Supreme Absolute Truth. He is the Lord, what Quran calls the Supreme. And he's saying that in my kingdom, if I do not pay somebody a 6-month salary, then he would just quit me. But look at this person. Look at this Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Millions, hundreds and millions of people are following him. They are ready to sacrifice their lives for him. His name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya. He also knew his name. And he said that I declare and order everybody, nobody should cause any harm to this person. He is free to do whatever he wants. He is free to chant. He is free to dance. He is free to deliver. If he wants to do anything with his group of devotees, he can do whatever he wants. Anybody who is causing any harm to this person, I am going to prosecute him. So he sent away Keshava, and then he called Rupa Goswami. He knew Rupa Goswami is very, very intelligent. He's very learned. He's very popular. He's very gentle, compassionate. So he asked him, what do you know about Sri Krishna Chaitanya? So then Rupa Goswami tells the king, whatever you have is by his mercy. Whatever the power you are enjoying, all of your kingdom is because of him. He is the controller of all the controllers. Whatever is in your heart, know that that is the truth. And then Rupa Goswami went home. So meanwhile, there the kirtan is still going on. The kirtan is going on during the day, the kirtan is going on during the night, and nobody is sleeping. For days together, this is going on. And some very pious people in the town of Ramakeli, they wrote a letter. They could not approach directly, but they decided that we will write a letter about how notorious this king is, Nawab Hussain Shah. And they wanted to protect Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They wanted to protect all the devotees. So they wrote a letter how dangerous this person is, this king is. And they have given this letter to a Brahmana and asked him to deliver it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this Brahmana, nicely he took the letter and then he went. And he was seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing in ecstasy. He was doing loud kirtans and thousands and millions of people are dancing, singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They were very jubilant. And he's waiting for a moment when he gets a chance, he would give that letter to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is continuously dancing and continuously singing, and he was not giving any moment for him. Now, now, if you are talking to somebody and then we have to leave, we would wait for any moment that if they give a moment, we'll say, okay, I have to go and then go. But if somebody is continuously talking, we cannot cut them in the middle and tell them, right? So like that, this person is waiting when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will stop so that I can give this letter to him and go. But he wouldn't. And he waited like that for days. For days and days he waited. And finally, he gave that letter to few devotees there, and he expressed his anguish, his concern that, somehow, you devotees, please deliver this message to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he went back. So these devotees, they don't want to stop this kirtan, and they were so ecstatic. They also doesn't want to stop. So it again went after a few days, and slowly the devotees also started to worry. Yes, this king is so cruel. We don't want any harm to be caused to any of the Vaishnavas or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with this king. He has his military force and everything. So they were having a little bit of concern in their hearts. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that, he came back to external consciousness. He looked at all of them and he smiled and he said that, do not fear. I appeared here to inundate everyone with love of Godhead. So you should not have any sort of fear. I am in the heart of all of you. So am I in the heart of the king. So without my permission, the king will not give a prosecution order without my consent. So know it for certain that I am going to protect everybody. And finally, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he continued his kirtans and everybody was fearless. The women, the children, the old people, everybody there. Everybody was singing and dancing. And after a few days, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ended the kirtan. And then, so this Dhabir Kas and Sakar Malik, who were the presidents, prime minister, and home finance ministers in the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah, they decided to meet secretly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in an incognito. So Bhakti Ratnakar explains that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were born in Saraswat Brahman families originated from Karnataka. And their forefathers and mothers are all great devotees. And these people have incredible talent, incredible intelligence, very learned, expert in what they do. So because they have such a great compassion, such a great talent, Nawab Hussain Shah wants to employ them. And then it came to a point that Nawab Hussain Shah would either prosecute all the family members of Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami or make them his ministers. So they became his ministers, and their dealings were so compassionate, so loving. So they were such intelligent and smart people. So the king divided his wealth. He gave palaces, he gave wealth, he gave influence and everything. But these people were very humble. All they wanted is Krishna, right? And finally, with their letters, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back and they secretly went to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these two people, they went and in disguise in the middle of the night. So first they met Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, and both Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur blessed them, and they brought before Lord Chaitanya. And as soon as they come, they offer themselves humbly in front of Lord Chaitanya. This is very, very significant. For a Vaishnava, in order to approach the Lord, we have to go through some senior devotees. We have to go through the Guru in order to approach the Lord. So that is the significance here. That is also personally shown by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in their personal dealings as well. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first placed his lotus feet on their heads and later embraced them and initiated them. he gave the names Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and for Anupam, the other brother, he gave the name Sri Vallabha. And later, this Sri Vallabha's son is Jiva Goswami. So that, and Bhakti Ratnakar explains by Narhar Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that Jiva Goswami was about 2 years old at the time. And he was watching Lord Chaitanya, how his two uncles are being are secretly meeting, how they are offering obeisances. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has such a beautiful lotus feet, long arms, and beautiful and effulgent body. And his uncles were weeping. They have tears on their face, standing in front of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving them initiating names, how they are getting initiated. All this is being secretly observed by Jiva Goswami, who's 2 years old at that time, in the middle of the night. So usually children, when they see parents do certain activity, they usually follow. Soon after that meeting, both Rupa Goswami and Anupam, they left Ramakeli, and then they put all their wealth to distribute to Vaishnavas and devotees. They have divided their wealth. They have boatloads of gold coins. So they divided and distributed the wealth, half of it to the Lord, and then the remaining they distributed to Vaishnavas, devotees. They kept some for the family and some for emergency. And Sanatana Goswami was in prison, and he had to escape later. And all of them were going to Vrindavan to meet Lord Chaitanya because they heard that that's where the Lord is also going. Later, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. So Prayag is the place where we have Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati, all three rivers meet. So this confluence is described in the Shastras as very, very sacred place. If somebody takes a dip at the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna, you get 100 times benefits. But if somebody takes a bath at the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati, you get 1,000 times of benefit. And especially during Magha Mela, if you take a dip, then you get much, much more benefit. And because during Magha Mela, when the Samudra Manthan is happening, when the demons stole the Amrit and they were fighting among themselves, some of the Amrit has fell on this particular confluence. That is why this place has so much prominence. Kumbh Mela happens here. That's why, the largest gathering of any kind happens in this place. And it's very sacred. It has much more people gathering than the Super Bowl or any of these games, modern games, or the Olympics. So that is the significance of this place. And then both Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again in Prayag, and there at a place called Dasa Ashwamedha Ghat, Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami. And then after that, he sent him to Vrindavan. And as part of the instructions, he told how the living entity travels happens. He told that there are 8,400,000 types of species of life. And then the living entity has to pass through those 8,400,000 forms in order to get to a human form. And once they come to a human form, there are unlimited jivas. And from there, some of them will be looking for the karma kanda, dhyana kanda, and then they wanted to learn the knowledge. And of that, like we see in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yadade Siddhaye Yadatamapa Siddhanam Kaschid Me Veti Tattvataha. So Manushyanam Sahasreshu, out of hundreds and thousands of men, one looks for perfection. Yadatamapa Siddhanam, one looks for Siddhi. And out of hundreds and thousands of people who get that Siddhi, one knows me in truth. So it's very rare that people know this. And out of all those jnanis, after passing through the karma kanda, the jnanis, then if they are fortunate, then if they find a devotee of the Lord, then fortunately they'll get into pure devotional service. So these are all the instructions given to Sanatana Goswami by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the rarity of this devotional service. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Bahunam janmanamante. After many, many births, jnanavan mam prapadyante. One who is very learned, one who is very intelligent, he approaches, he surrenders unto Krishna. And he comes to a conclusion of Vasudeva sarvamiti. He comes to a conclusion that Vasudeva, Krishna is everything. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. That kind of a person is called Mahatma. So that is the definition of Mahatma as per Bhagavad Gita. One who comes to the conclusion that Krishna is everything. Not the materially given titles as Mahatma. And Durlabha means very rare. Sudurlabha means extremely rare. So that kind of a person is extremely rare. So once a person gets into that state, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is further instructing Rupa Goswami that the Bhakti Lata Beach starts when the devotee meets a pure devotee of the Lord, pure devotee of Krishna. And we also see that Vidura, when he comes from all these places of pilgrimage, he meets the Pandavas, and Yudhishthira is saying, Bhavadvida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibho Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantasthena Gadabrita. So he's saying that people go to the places of pilgrimage to purify themselves, but you are the personified purity where you go and you purify the places of pilgrimage itself. And wherever you are, all the places of pilgrimage are at your lotus feet. So when we meet a pure devotee of the Lord, we are actually getting more benefit of dipping at these confluences multiple times, right? When you take dip in Ganga, after a long time, you get purified multiple times. Of course, it is very pure river, but like you have to do that several times for getting purified. But if you get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord, since they carry all these places of pilgrimage at their lotus feet itself, by meeting them, we'll get the fortune of developing the seed of bhakti. So that Bhaktilata beach sprouts when somebody meets a pure devotee of the Lord. And that creeper starts growing, and then it keeps growing, and then it pierces through these material worlds. And then the whole material world, if you imagine as a globe, it has all these 7 elements: earth, water, ether, fire, air, and everything. Each of them is twice as the previous layer. So the Bhaktilata beach creeps beyond those layers, and finally it pierces the Viraja river, and it also enters into the Vaikuntha Loka, and it travels through the Vaikuntha Loka and keeps sprouting through all the way to Golok Vrindavan. So while this Bhaktilata beach is growing, is sprouting, there are chances. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still continuing his instruction to Rupa Goswami. He's saying that we have to guard, as this creeper of Bhaktilata beach is growing, around this creeper also grows the weeds. So when we grow a plant, around that there are weeds. So we have to carefully pluck out those weeds by their roots. Otherwise, if the weeds are there, our plant will not grow much. So we will be, this Bhaktilata beach is the sprout that we have this devotion. And when we are increasing our devotion, around the devotion as well, we will be growing some of the weeds like anger, the weeds like lust, offenses, all these things. And these weeds, we have to be very, very careful in guarding them. Otherwise, our garden, like it's like it is described as a mad elephant offense. If somebody offends a Vaishnav or does any of these things, offenses, Vaishnava offense especially, Parad, then the whole thing is destroyed. Your whole Bhaktilata beach is gone. Why? Like if in the forest animals, if you see a lion is very fierce, but if it gets angry or it is hungry, it chases one animal a long way and it cuts and it eats that. Maximum it will kill is one or two. If the lion is angry, it'll kill one or two animals. And when it gets the food, it just is satisfied and it will not touch other animals. But if you see a mad elephant in a zoo, like people tell that, zookeepers, if the elephant is mad, it not only destroys the whole garden, the whole forest, it will kill the keeper as well, the zookeeper. It'll kill all other animals. It'll pluck out all the trees from its roots. And the mad elephant is let loose for a few moments, it can destroy and create havoc around the whole atmosphere and killing multiple living entities. And it can create great damage. So the Vaishnava aparad is compared to that. If somebody does the Vaishnava aparad, it's like letting loose a mad elephant into your garden where your creeper of bhakti is slowly coming up, sprouting. If you guard against that and if you cultivate the bhakti by proper sadhana, then your Bhaktilata beach sprouts up into this material world, crossing those 7 layers, piercing the Viraja river, getting into the Vaikuntha planets, all the way it'll go to Goloka Vrindavan and sprouts a fruit. While you are in the material world, this still goes on. And then when Krishna gets that fruit, that is where, your service, your Bhaktilata beach is fructified. So that's what he explains. Rupa Goswami, and he also talks about the characteristics of Shuddha Bhakti, how powerful it is. And he also gives the definition of Bhakti, Anya Bhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadhyana Vritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu, Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So the pure devotional service, the definition is, it is devoid of any of the motivations or any of the desires. Anyabhileshata shunyam. There is no desire. Jnana karma dhyana vritam. The interest of increasing your jnana or increasing jnana marg or meditation methods, karma, anavritam, so etc. So any of these things, whether somebody is in fruity worker, if they want to better their lives by go to the higher planetary systems, if they have these desires, or if they want to be a gnani, a yogi, a meditation person, all these things, they are devoid of all these things. Anyavileshita shunyam, jnana karma dhyanavritam, anukulyena krishnanu, always favorable for Krishna's service. Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So that kind of devotion is pure devotional service. That is the definition given. And further, he gives instruction saying that the characteristics of Shuddha Bhakti. Lord Kapila also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Madguna Shri Matrena Mai Sarva Guhashaye Manogatir Avichinna Yatha Ganga Basombudao. Simply by hearing about Krishna, the minds of the devotees come to him, who resides in all their hearts, as the Ganges flows unobstructed into the ocean. Right? So he talks about the riches of bhukti and mukti. So the bhukti is we wanted to enjoy, the mentality of enjoying, and mukti is so dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So first people does dharma, the dharmic activities or religion just to get artha. Artha is wealth. Why do they need their wealth? To enjoy kama. They have desires, so in order to enjoy that. And after doing all these things, they get frustrated. Now they want mukti, liberation. So all these things are also impediments for bhakti. So he further says that the pure devotional service should be the ultimate aim. So he gives all these instructions, and then for 10 days, and then he will leave to Vrindavan Dham. And then we will move to another topic of Jiva Goswami's initiation. So actually, Jiva Goswami, he first approached Sanatana Goswami for initiation because he's the elder uncle. And out of deep humility, Sanatana Goswami told Jiva Goswami took initiation from Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami actually was a disciple of Sanatana Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, to please Sanatana Goswami, accepted Jiva Goswami. And then before he initiated him, Rupa Goswami wants to teach the world to his nephew. So he had Jiva Goswami to do the most menial services. In Varanasi, he was the king of Pandits, scholars. When he was learning from Vidya Vachaspati, Jiva Goswami was by far super excellent. I mean, there was no Pandit or scholar higher than him. So sometimes we think that dovetailing to the propensities, we have to give a particular person a big project so that he can do some service into that particular thing. Now, what kind of a project we can give it to a personality like Jiva Goswami? So Rupa Goswami asked Jiva Goswami to sweep the temple, to water the tulsi plant, and to collect leaves and process them, dry them nicely, so that Rupa Goswami can write books on them. Right? Jiva Goswami, he himself is a big scholar, but Rupa Goswami, before he giving initiation, he was giving all these menial services to Jiva Goswami. He did not ask him to write any books. He asked him to only process the leaves so that I can write the books. So Rupa Goswami was doing the puja, and he asked Jiva Goswami to clean the paraphernalia. So to kind of prepare the aarti plates, boga plates, and after the actual puja, after aarti is done, then washing the plates and drying them and then keeping it in proper place. So even though Rupa Goswami is so humble, he wants Jiva Goswami to get to show the world that proper consciousness is required for initiation. So then when Rupa Goswami goes to rest, he used to ask Jiva Goswami to massage his feet. And when it is hot, he asked him to fan him. So, and then he said, you should serve all the other devotees in the same way. And Jiva Goswami spent months and months, perhaps years, doing this menial service. And he was totally happy with the seva. Because in bhakti, it's service that is important, not what type of service. The spirit of seva is important. There is nothing like a higher service or a lower service. There is nothing like a higher seva or lower seva. The spirit with which we are doing the service is more important than what seva we are doing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also chose Ishvara Puri as his initiating guru. Why? Because he was satisfied with apparently low service to his Guru Maharaj, Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri served his Guru so nicely. He did menial service and he was completely satisfied. So it's the spirit. That's what Krishna says. So then when Rupa Goswami saw Jiva Goswami's deep sincerity, humility and everything, and his deep devotion, then he initiated him. And later, Rupa Goswami made a deity with his own hands of Radha Damodar. And Rupa Goswami personally installed the deity and began worshipping that particular deity, Radha Damodar. And later years, he entrusted Radha Damodar unto the care of Jiva Goswami. Now, Jiva Goswami nicely took the service of Radha Damodar, small in size, as his life and soul. So, Narahari Chakravarti Thakur, he gives limitless leelas between Radha Damodar and Jiva Goswami. But a couple of them, we can discuss. So Radha Damodar would talk to Jiva Goswami and would say, I'm hungry, feed me. And Jiva Goswami would, so much devotion, so much love, would come, prepare bhoga and offer to the Lord. And right in front of his eyes, Radha Damodar would eat it personally. And now, what we saw, we are not qualified to hear. Like this particular message, we are not qualified to hear. At least I am not qualified to hear. He actually saw Radha Damodar eating the prasad with these eyes anointed with love. And on another occasion, Jiva Goswami would be doing his services and he would hear the sweetest and most beautiful sound of the flute. And on the altar, Radha Damodar was playing the flute. He would hear this ambrosial nectarian song of emanating from the flute. And he would call Jiva Goswami to come and see him playing his flute. When Jiva Goswami would see, he would see Radha Damodar playing on the flute and dance. And seeing this, Jiva Goswami wept in tears of ecstasy of love. This is how they lived. And this deity who was interacting with Jiva Goswami is personally made by Rupa Goswami, and he personally installed it. So one day, Sripad Vallabhacharya, there are various narrations and various stories on this particular pastime. The Gaudiya Sampradaya and Pushti Marg, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, they were close to each other. And in those days, they used to be like brothers. So even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes from scriptures that Jiva Goswami would regularly go and visit Vittalnath, the son of Sripad Vallabhacharya. And also Rupa and Sanatan used to meet with them. And then Raghunath Das Goswami and Vittalnath are very, very close and deep friends. So once Sri Vallabha Bhatta volunteered to edit Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sri Vallabha Bhatta is a great scholar in those days. Jiva Goswami pointed out to him that what he thought was not the best way to saying things. It is not that he is defeating Sri Vallabha Bhatta. It's a bhava. Jiva Goswami has a bhava, and he's not actually correcting, but he told him that, you should not correct. So Vallabhacharya also was so happy to hear his comments, and he said to Rupa Goswami how wonderful scholar the Jiva Goswami and how deep insights he had. And he not only understood the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but also helped me to understand the depths of your writing of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, Rupa Goswami wanted to teach the world through Jiva Goswami and an important lesson. He chastised Jiva Goswami. Vallabha Bhatta is an exalted senior to me and you. And why do you think you have the right to question what he has proposed? To be in Vrindavan, you cannot have any pride. You must go. And Rupa Goswami, he was simply protecting the loving relationship. And through this pastime, we can see many lessons. How very strongly the Goswamis taught us the principle of etiquette. Even though Jiva Goswami is not wrong, and he was humble, how we respect senior Vaishnava this is crucial, this is critical, this is inseparable principle of bhakti. When we are interacting with especially the god brothers of our Guru, we should treat them with utmost respect, and we cannot go and correct them. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when Ramchandra Puri came, he honored him and he respected him, even though he was quite a crazy man. He was blaspheming Lord Chaitanya. Still, Lord Chaitanya respected and honored him. So even though Jiva Goswami was humble and he did not do anything wrong from another level, he still sent away. And then Jiva Goswami went because his guru told him to leave. And then he went to this Nanda Ghat and he performed great austerities there. He hardly ate anything, chanted intensely to rectify his false pride, so-called false pride. And ultimately, Sanatana Goswami came and found him and brought him back to Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, seeing him and his sincerity, humility, Jiva Goswami embraced him. And then Rupa Goswami personally nursed him back to health. So with this pastime, now we can see how Rupa Goswami is teaching to the world through Jiva Goswami in enacting this pastime of how important the Vaishnava etiquette is and the relationship between guru and disciples, and how the behavior should be. And we recite in the Mangalachan prayer, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. So Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, whatever is in the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swayam Rupa. So Rupa Goswami knew that. So that is the significance of Rupa Goswami. So I'll pause here. We got a nice opportunity to discuss and remember Rupa Goswami on this auspicious day of the day after his disappearance day. And from these great souls, now we can understand the importance of seva and the importance of the Rupanugas, what lineage we are coming from, and how the interaction between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami happened. So I'll pause here. If you have any questions or any reflections, we can take.
Hare Krishna, Acyuta Kumar Prabhu. Hare
Hare Krishna, Ashray Madhu. Dhanavad Pranam.
Very nice narration. Actually, your lectures are very, how would I say, very nectarian. Your lectures are very nectarian. You narrate in a way that I find it very sweet. Your lectures are very sweet because you're a epitome of humility, and that's why your lectures comes out very sweet, and we really like it. Particularly when we are describing, so two things I kind of learned from this lecture, pastimes. One is the Bhakti Lata Beej, right? Then you have these weeds growing, right? If sometimes our bhakti is not strong, or if we don't have good association, it's quite possible that we may find the weeds more attractive than the real plant. We won't be able to distinguish between the weeds and the plant, and we find the weeds more attractive. And it's very important to have association of the good devotees who can help us distinguish between the real plant and the weeds. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. All glories to Guru Maharaj. Whatever I hear from my Siksha Gurus and Guru Maharaj, I try to narrate the same. So it's all the sweet pastimes that they narrated, and I'm fortunate to hear those narrations from my Siksha Gurus and Guru Maharaj. So all glories belong to them. And the emphasis, yeah, you are right. The emphasis on the Bhaktilata Bij is so important that we need to guard very carefully against these weeds that are growing, and then from time to time correct them, trim them, and at any point we should not let loose like a mad elephant offense.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. And then the last one you described about this Jiva Goswami, right? When we don't have much quality, it is much easier to become humble, because one thing about humble is humiliation, right? A person who doesn't have much good quality is already habituated with humiliation, right? So it is much easier for him to become humble. But when you have a lot of good qualities, then to become humble is the real humility, like the Jiva Goswami, right? He was such a big scholar in the Varanasi, and then he was doing all those service, right? And I can tell personally, like if someone gives me like, why this menial service I should do? I know a lot about the scriptures. Instead, I should be going and preaching. Why I should go and clean the pots? Why I should, clean the trash outside the temple, right? So and we are nothing compared to like Jiva Goswami, right? But we still have those feelings in our heart, like just the other thing that like the weeds, basically those weeds are still there, very strong. Sometimes I feel that way.
True, Prabhu, true. And that humility is one of the foundations that we have. Humility and gratitude are the two important qualities that will take us further in devotion. And Jiva Goswami's qualifications, when he learned from Vidyavachaspati, he was declared to be by far, the best in the world at the time. And then such a genius. And still, Rupa Goswami gave such a menial service to tell all the people in future to come and know what it takes to become a pure devotee. What kind of humility we should expect.
Prabhuji, let me quickly look in if there is online any questions or comments. Let me just quickly take.
Sure, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I don't find any comments online.
Okay.
So I don't know how you want to spend the next.
Yeah, if we have another 10 minutes here, so we can do Shat Goswami Ashtakam, Krishna Kirtana. So if you can share the screen, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. It is KK songs, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. And Avanish will help playing the Mridanga.
Let me go and share my screen.
Krishna Kirtana. That one, yeah, you can do that. That was if you can increase the size, Prabhu.
Is this okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, you can do one more. Yeah, this is good, Prabhu. Krishna Kirtana.
Prabhu, your voice is breaking.
Is it better, Prabhu?
Yeah, now it was good. Towards the end, it was good.
Okay, let me see if we should do the audio. Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Yeah. Krishna Kirtana Paro Amrutambo Ira Vira Jana Priya Priya Aksara Chaitanya Abhara Avahanta.
No, Prabhu, your voice is breaking.
Shastra Vicharanai Kanipuna Satma Samsthapato Kanam Hitakarino Tripane Man Osharanya Pato Adhana Krishna Aravinda Bhajana Inamata Rupa Sanatana Prabhu Yuga Srila Samriddhi Anandam Putravi Gopi Bhava Amrita Magna Sanatana Purabhuja Jato Pila Sara Sangara Mayura Anara Pramura Vikata Govinda Radha Krishna Krishna Ikatadaya Mudara Sanatana Purabhuja Avasani Radha Krishna Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank everybody for staying and all the visitors. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Vanchakalpa Tarupyasya Kripa Sindhupya Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavvrindaki Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Acyuta Kumar Prabhu ki jai.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, everyone, we'll close the session now, and we'll see you again, all of you, in Saturday morning session. Actually, tomorrow we have a wonderful Balram Jayanti that's going to happen. So please come to the temple, 6 o'clock, and celebrate Balram Jayanti with us at ISKCON of Silicon Valley, Mountain View, 1965 Latham Street, Mountain View. Go.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.